I wish I had done these things better in architecture school.
What am I talking about? Well, having studied architecture in Canada, Australia, and the US in the span of 8 years with 5 internships in between, I could have been a doctor in another country. 8 years of architecture education, you are probably thinking, I can't argue with you, but here are 10 pieces of advice that I've distilled down from, frankly, too many. I wish someone like myself had told me this before I started. I might have saved that $200 in master degree.
I will sleep when I'm dead is such a stupid expression. I don't know who coined this, but you're more likely to be dead if you don't get enough.
In my undergrad, there's actually a mandatory curfew to lock up your project, models, and any supporting materials the night before your year-end presentation because professors don't want to see a bunch of zombies presenting their work. If you're slurring your words, it doesn't matter how beautiful your work is, it's going to take away from the quality of your presentation. And you're not going to understand your feedback that well either. So don't underestimate the value of your sleep. Getting the proper 8 hours will save you more hours in return if you didn't. Let me know what you're getting in school right now. Time management. You've probably heard the stereotype that most architecture students don't sleep.
True story. True story. True story.
Frankly, I get kind of annoyed when I hear students say, oh, I haven't slept in 48 hours and I'm on my 10th cup of coffee. Like it's something to be proud of. And in my head, I'm just thinking that there's probably something better to be bragging about if you didn't watch a whole season of How I Met Your Mother for inspiration. I think this epidemic is more a problem of time management than not having enough time. I can only remember one all-nighter, and it was because I was in a group project with a classmate. My advice is to avoid them at all costs. I'm kidding. This actually turned out to be one of my favorite memories in school, and our project ended up on a book cover. If you know me, I'm not smart in most ways, but I am one of those rare breeds that can finish their project a day in advance and never lost any sleep over printing nightmares or computer issues that seems to be contagious the night before a presentation. Good time management is one of those meta skills that will help you in the long run. If you're already not great in this area, be prepared to join the stats. But if you want to learn some helpful time management tools, I highly recommend you check out Ali Abdel's channel on YouTube. Learn fast. There are going to be many softwares and programs you're going to be using for your degree. Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, Rhino, Grasshopper, and SketchUp were just a few popular ones that I came across, and this was when I went to school. Let me know what you guys are using nowadays. Learning the ins and outs of each program will take you a whole semester in itself, if not years, because they've become such sophisticated tools over the years. But what I've learned is that there's only about 10 to 20% of the features from each software that you need to be competent with to perform your work properly. So if you catch yourself in a rabbit hole of watching one of those comprehensive tutorials with 50 videos, you might as well watch the last season of How I Met Your Mother. Multitasking. If you think you can multitask and watch movies while you work, what might take you an hour to do something will magically take 3, and you won't even realize it. Just look around. You will find students like this in studio, and they're probably the ones that are on their 10th cup of coffee. The study actually shows productivity goes way down when you multitask. There's only a few scenarios that I can imagine where you can't multitask without losing much productivity and efficiency. For example, despite how good computer renderings are getting these days, good rendering still takes some time. So while you're waiting for renders to complete, plan this waiting time ahead so that when you hit that render button, you can right away work on something else. You'd be surprised how many people use this time as an excuse to not do anything because they're waiting for the render to complete. Back in the days, I used to batch all my renders while I slept, so when I woke up in the morning, they'd all be done. And the worst part was I had a dual core processor when computers nowadays are coming out with 16 or even 32 core processors. Vitamin D is important. This is something I wish I had done better myself. University campuses are somewhat nice, they're filled with buildings all around, but if you had mapped out my GPS location on most days, it would be the same straight line from home to studio and back. Now, to think of it, I would be a very easy person to kidnap. In my undergrad in Canada, we had this underground tunnel that connected literally to every building on campus when it's -30 outside in the winter. There are times when I've not stepped outside for a month when I was practically living in this tunnel, and people like us were being called tunnel rats. I joke if you went into the architecture school and looked around, You will notice that people are whiter, not because of the color of their skin, but from the lack of vitamin D they're not getting by staying indoors all the time. So yeah, I wish I had gone out a little bit more. Maybe I wouldn't have looked so pale during presentations. Be your own architect. While your professors might seem wise, intelligent, and they might not always have your best interests at heart. Good ones will probe your interest, less good ones will make you serve their interest. I had a visiting professor who influenced students to design for certain things so they can use this body of work to advance their own research. Your time in school is one of those few times that you actually get to pursue your own interests and beliefs. So if you want to design your thesis based on a zombie outbreak, then do it. Except that's already been done. This is the second time I mentioned zombies. As a side note, I'm a huge zombie fan. 28 Days Later, The Walking Dead, Dawn of the Dead, World War Z, Train to Busan are some of my favorites. Anyways, the sad reality is when you are out of school, you are most likely to work on someone else's agenda, whether that's your boss or even a private client. You rarely have the opportunity to design recklessly like you did in school. You know, those crazy cantilevers without any consideration to structure. So be your own architect in school, which might be the only time you be one. Study abroad. Many architecture school will have some sort of study abroad or traveling abroad semester. For me, this was a transformative experience in my personal growth. Without getting into the details, having spent the entire semester in Australia really lifted the big rock that I was living under. And without the experience, I don't think I would have gone to working in Amsterdam after I graduated or traveling to 30 countries and moving to California today. If this is an option for you, I strongly encourage you to take this opportunity. You never know what can happen. I think one of my classmates actually met her husband while she was abroad. Internships. I think we're all kind of peer pressure to look for internships, to get your foot into the door as early as possible. And there's a chance that you might not find anything, which might make you feel incompetent or that your work or portfolio isn't good or something. But I think it's completely okay. Just look at me. I think these are the last summers you are ever going to have before starting to file your own taxes. So enjoy them while they last. I had my first internship after undergrad, and the summers in between, I occupied my time with traveling and working on jobs that actually gave me some perspective in life as I reflect on it today. By the way, I'm not suggesting you being a couch potato and watching Netflix all day, but you don't need to feel bad for not landing an architectural internship right away. That could be a blessing in disguise. Standing out. If there's one thing, actually multiple things the architecture school teaches you is to be a jack of all trades. I'm talking about showing competency with all the digital tools and physical tools like model making throughout your degree. You may have a preference for using one skill over the other, like rendering, but if you had to make a physical model, you could whip one up as well. I feel like most students coming out of school have a similar level of skill set when I look at their portfolio, but you can demonstrate exceptional strength in one area, be it rendering, physical or digital modeling. That will set you apart from your peers. For example, I was exceptionally good at visualization, which turned out to be a highly desirable skill set that companies valued. When it came to job hunting, it gave me a leg up compared to others. At this point, you might not know what a skill is, but you will know what comes naturally to you more than others as you progress in the semester. So think about what that is and how you can cultivate that even further. Lastly is take a business class. There's one thing that's missing from the architecture curriculum, and that's the business side of architecture, and it's probably on purpose to make sure the program is known for its design reputation first. Sure, there's a class called Professional Practice, but that's kind of a joke. I was lucky enough to have minor in real estate at Cornell in my second architecture degree, which allowed me to take some classes in the business school where I learned some pretty basic Excel modeling. And I gotta say, it was the first time I felt like the dumbest person in the room. If you have the slightest interest in running your own office someday, I strongly encourage you to use one of your free electives to take a few business classes and not film like I did in my undergrad. Even if you don't end up running your own business, this knowledge will definitely come handy someday as you move up the corporate ladder. I'd love to hear more tips from you if you are in school right now or have recently graduated. Maybe there's a part 2 to this video. In the meantime, you can check out this other video here on Side Hustle for Architects.